Okay, we've still got a couple minutes before we go. I was going to check. In fact, I'm going to go and get in. If you were here right at the very beginning, 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago rather, I was talking about how my Mac charger, here's one sorry end of it, because the other end is in the freezer right now, and it's, for some reason, putting it in the freezer seems to fix it. It decides to play up every now and then and stop working, and that's exactly what's happened right now. So I'm going to get that out of the freezer and see if it's worked this time. Here we go. So as you can see, I'm in my my office, aka the kitchen. I work where I need to work. So let's get this connected up. And there's no idea why. People have postulated reasons as to why putting a Mac charger in a freezer works, but I've never really heard anybody come up with anything that makes me think, yeah, that's definitely it. So I'll just plug that in, and the green lights come on. That's like, why? Why does that happen? Why does it do that? So we're on for this evening. So we've got about 100 or so people listening in this evening, which is great because this is a pretty powerful subject we're going to be talking about, and we're going to crack on with it in just a moment. So thanks for joining me, and it's a bit of a funny one this evening, because often I do these webinars because I want to share some really good content with you. Tonight's no different to that, but also there's often something that I'm trying to sell, or I suggest that would be a really good fit for you. And if it is, great, I'll give you the links to it at the end and stuff. Tonight there's absolutely nothing for you to buy or part with your money with. And not that I ever feel guilty about doing that. That's, I come up with good stuff, quality stuff, and I know that it works, I know that it helps people, and I'd be doing you a disservice if I held it back from you. But tonight isn't about that. Tonight is pure. Well, actually, I say that there's a bit of an ulterior motive for this webinar this evening, and doing it for absolutely free, and getting as many people on it as possible, and sharing this content, and without any kind of real financial comeback to it, because if I'm going to share my reason for doing this with you tomorrow. I'm going to send you the cliff notes to this webinar tomorrow, and with kind of a few of the main bullet points, and also the mind map that I'm going to use in the session this evening. And I'll also share with you then why I'm doing this, because there is a good reason, but it isn't to necessarily make any money or anything. But it's a personal goal of mine, which is, this ties in perfectly with. But we are going to be talking about goal setting, and always that you'll see just below here there is an opportunity there to ask questions. Now I'm not going to be doing a Q&A during the live call this evening, because 40 minutes is going to be plenty for us tonight, and for some of you, it's going to be a big, mind-altering, eye-opening 40 minutes. So I'm not going to take any questions at the end. I want to finish, and then we're done. But ask your questions anyway, because I'll try and cover them. If they're good questions, I'll try and cover them in the cliff notes, and also in future articles and emails. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration for my writing, is from you guys. So please do feel free to contribute your thoughts, your comments, your feedback, or anything else. Listening in this evening, I imagine there's going to be 3 different types of people. It's going to be the people for whom this is going to be an enormous, paradigm-shifting 40-minute session, and you're going to finish off the 40 minutes, and nothing's ever going to be the same for you again. And I used the word, I sent an email earlier, and I had life-changing in the subject, and kind of maybe just a little bit, flippant use of the word life-changing there. But for some people, it really is going to be that powerful, and maybe not what you learn in the content of what you learn tonight, but certainly the ideas, the theories, the strategies are going to completely flip things over for you, and you're going to start thinking about goals and achievement and even purpose in a totally different way. So that's the first group of people, and I'm very excited about that group. The second group probably listen to this webinar and get some really good points, and hopefully make some big changes to the way they do things. But they're probably not going to get quite the same out of it as the first group, and that's fine as well. You're still going to really benefit from it. And the third group, you guys are also going to benefit from it as well. And I'm sure that we'll get a few of you listening in and watching the webinar this evening, and you'll probably be doing other things at the same time. Maybe you'll have the TV on, you might be on Facebook or Twitter, and multitasking, and I'll probably be just a bit of a side note there, and that's fine as well, because you'll take away whatever you need to take away from this evening's session as well. So whatever you're after, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is whatever you're after tonight, wherever you're coming from to this webinar, you're probably going to get that. If you know what you want to get out of it, then you're probably going to get that. If it's just a bit of a side note, then you're probably going to get a small amount from it. If you're investing focus and concentration into it, and you're looking for some big changes here, then you're going to get some big changes. And that's actually going to come into the session as well, the webinar, a little later on. So I'm going to dive pretty much straight into the content, and the way I'm going to do this session this evening is I'm going to do a screen share. I'll kind of probably flick back and forwards between me and my screen share, because I'm actually going to use a mind map, and I find these really useful. And I don't just find these useful for presenting, I find these really useful for thinking as well. There's a great expression, I think it was Dan Kennedy, who said, think on paper. And that really does make a big, certainly helps me, and I'm sure it'll help you as well if your brain kind of works in a certain way. Then if you have thoughts, you crystallize them, you write them down on paper, not just goals, but any thoughts, then all of a sudden that sparks another thought, and you go to another idea, and then another place, and you go to somewhere else, and then all of a sudden you're going all over the place. And this is where the whole brainstorm idea came from. Mind maps, Tony Buzan came up with them back in the, I don't know, 60s or 70s. But anyway, let me do this screen share with you now, because this is where things start getting funky. Start screen share. Here we go. So this is what we're after tonight: powerful goal setting. And if I just screen out that, you see, this is what I'm going to be going through. I'm going to be talking about basically going through this mind map. But I did say in my blurb at the beginning, I'm going to smash through the elephant in the room, which is SMART goals. I actually had a guy email me when I first said, "Oh, I think you're doing a webinar about goal setting. Would you be interested in it?" And he actually emailed back and said, "As long as it's not SMART goals," because I get that to the back teeth, stick to the back teeth of that at work. And it's not about goals, it's not about SMART goal setting, but I do want to mention it. In fact, I want to talk about it in some detail, because I want you to understand why it's not the best way of setting goals, and why goals that you set using the SMART acronym, the specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time frame goals, why that's not necessarily the best way of doing it. It can be. There is an exception there, and I'm going to talk about that as well. But let's talk about SMART goals, and we're going to be we'll jump around a little bit through the presentation this evening. But I want to start off here, and let's give a couple of examples first of all. I know that a lot of people listening into the webinar this evening will either have had at some point in their life a weight loss related SMART goal, or will know somebody who has or had. And if that's not you, then you'll know somebody who, or you will have a running related SMART goal. I want to run a marathon in under 4 hours, and it's at the end of April, for example. But let's go with the SMART goals for weight loss, because it's a pretty big deal to decide you're going to lose weight. Let's say you're going to set yourself the goal of losing 10 pounds in the next 6 weeks. Okay, that's completely realistic. It's a completely achievable goal. It's humanly possible to lose that much weight, assuming, of course, you've got that much weight to lose. It's also, let's assume for this theoretical person, that it's realistic that they can lose that much weight because they decide they're going to dedicate themselves to it. They're going to do whatever it takes to get to the 10 pounds off in 6 weeks mark. And they've got the time frame, and they can measure it. They can get on the scales at the beginning, they can get on the scales at the end. And it's very specific in that they can write that down and be precise about what it is they're trying to achieve. But that's not a bad goal, and I'm not saying you should never set SMART goals like that. What I am saying is if you stop there, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Because what happens is, we're working on logic and best guesswork at best. It's what we think we should do. So you're working on a logic like, well, you know what, I want to lose 10 pounds because then I'll be a size 12 instead of a size 14. And then I'll be able to buy these clothes. And it's a very logical progression of thought processes there. It's also guesswork, because you're saying, well, I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks. Well, how do you know that that's what you're going to lose? How do you know that that's the target? You've got to come up with some sort of a target. So you've got to pluck something out of the air, and that's what we do. We go with what we think we should do when we set goals like that. And that's the problem. Because we think we should do it, it's not as important a goal, or we don't get to the crux of why that goal is important enough. And that's one of the reasons why we end up in failure. This bit up here, without a why, these goals are dead in the water. I'm going to talk about why, Start With Why, which is actually a book by a guy called Simon Sinek, which is a fantastic book. I'll send you the ISBN or the Amazon link to that, because it's a really is worth having a read of that book. It'll change things on their heads for you. And I'm going to come back to that in a short while. But you need to have, if you're going to set any kind of goals and do it the smart way, you have to have the why. And that totally changes the whole idea of having a smart goal. But also, I want to talk about this, not always in complete control of the outcome. So let me just go back to the other screen. Where are we? Stop screen share. So you're not always in control of the outcome of a smart goal. So you might decide, you know what, I'm going to do absolutely everything to lose weight, or I'm going to do absolutely everything to train for my marathon. And you go ahead and you do those things. You're absolutely perfect. You eat like a saint. You train like a nutter, and you get to bed on time. You take the supplements you need to take. You do absolutely everything. You make massive changes to your life. Okay, 10 pounds in 6 weeks. That's what you want to lose. You get on the scales at the end of the 6 weeks, and what's happened? Well, one of two things will have happened. You've either lost the 10 pounds, and it's like, yippee, or you haven't lost the 10 pounds. You've done everything you have, but you've only lost 7 pounds or 8 pounds, but you haven't lost 10. Now, you've got to think about that. Have you failed that goal? Have you failed at achieving that goal? Technically, yes, you have. And I've seen many a client get on. We used to have it when I used to work at Fitness First. We used to have these body fat monitors. You stand on the scales in your bare feet, and it would send a little signal around your body, and it would tell you what your body fat percentage was. And I had so many clients get on those scales feeling joyful and feeling optimistic and feeling happy and feeling energized, feeling like they've done everything they've done everything right for the last couple of weeks. They get on those scales all expectantly, and bang, in a second, the whole mood changes when they realize that their body fat's only shifted a tiny amount, or their weight's only dropped down by a pound when they're expecting 4 pounds. They feel amazing, but they haven't seen the numbers to quantify, because that's totally not aligned with what they're expecting as far as their goals were concerned. So again, it's good to have these goals, but if you just focus on that, then you are going to fall a long way short of actually being successful. Because what do you think happens to these people? What do you think happens when you come short of hitting a goal? Chances are that's going to be it. You're not going to want to continue, or you'll think, well, I'm going to find a different way. Whereas really all you need to be doing is to be consistent and think about the process. Think about what it is that you're doing. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to come back to the SMART goal scenario in a moment, because I want to go back. I want to talk about why, because I think that is going to be a good junction to bring this in. Because let's say now that you set your SMART goal and it's to lose weight, and that is important to you, that you do genuinely want to lose weight. It's going to be a life-changing thing if you do that. But you stopped short of the SMART goal. You haven't done the one important thing, which is to start with why. So what your why is, it's your deep, meaningful, powerful reason for wanting to do that. Your purpose. I quickly whip through these, and I'm going to go back and talk to you properly. Otherwise, you're just looking at the screen here. So you've got, it needs to be powerful. It needs to be something that really, really means something for you. I'll talk about targets versus vision in a second. What is your purpose? What is it that you really, really want to achieve? Because if your goal is to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, you've got to think about what that's going to represent. What is it that losing that weight is going to mean to you? What will allow you to do? How will you feel when you get there? How is your life going to be different when you've achieved that goal? And what will you be saying to yourself? What will you look like? What will you see when you look in the mirror? All of these things are really, really important to drill down. And it's not like you're going to, oh yeah, that's obvious. You're not going to pick it up straight away now listening to this webinar. You'll have to go away and think about it. You have to dig quite deep sometimes to really understand why you wanted to do that. And if you go right to the very top, then you start looking at what your purpose is. What's your purpose as an individual, as a human being, and how do these goals fit into that structure? your purpose, your identity, your beliefs and values, and then that ultimately filters down and you start looking at your behaviors. And if you can get all the other bits from the top down in place, then your behaviors are always going to support everything else that comes on top of that. And if it doesn't, then there's going to be a big disconnect, and you're going to know about it. There's too much flex, and so you bring your behaviors back in line again. But in order to do that, you have to have a really clear idea of this kind of totem pole of self, with your purpose and identity being right there at the top. So the first thing you need to do, really, I'm going to go through a 5-step a sequence of what you need to do next at the end. And the first thing you need to do is to dig deep and think about what your why is. And for a lot of you listening tonight, that will be the biggest revelation, that will be the biggest thing that you take away from this evening. The thing that will make the most amount of impact on you is if you just think about why it is you want to do what you say you want to do. And I talk about fitness and health, that's what I understand most, but if this applies to everything in every aspect of your life, if it's a goal, if it's something you want to achieve, if it is important to you, then you should be able to dig deep and discover what that why actually is. And it can take you on a completely different direction, because actually you might discover that it isn't that important to you. You set yourself up some goal, and there are other things that are more important to you that aren't in line with that. And when that happens, you're always going to struggle to achieve it. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing that you understand and discover that, so you can then realign it and you can go after something else. I said in my email earlier, by the way, just as an aside, that you guys, anybody who's in my circle of influence, or people who listen to me, get my emails, watch my YouTube videos, or connect with me on social media, you're different to most other people. And it sounds a bit weird saying that, but you are very different, because most people are happy to sit down there on their backsides and not do anything, not take any action, not even to go out there and find out what the next step is for them to get out of where they are. And they're actually, even though they may feel unhappy, deep down they're happy inside, because changing the status quo is much more painful than actually staying where they are. Because they're happy, they know where they are, they're comfortable, knowing what they can complain about, knowing how they can whinge, knowing how they can get attention, and how they can get the support they need to stay put. And you're not that person. You're the person who wants to change. And to make change happen, you've got to dig deep to find out why you want that in the first place. So this start with why is absolutely critical to that process. I'll flick back again in a second, but let's talk very briefly then about vision versus targets. Because again, to use the weight loss example, your target may be to lose 10 pounds and to do that in 6 weeks. And you can set a smart goal up around that. But then to think about what the vision is going to be far more powerful, or certainly a more powerful way to augment that goal. And the way to do that is you start thinking, well, when I lose 10 pounds, I've got kids, I want to be a role model to my children. I want to feel good. I want to feel confident. I want to live the kind of life that someone who's 10 pounds lighter than me leads. I want to wake up in the morning and feel happy. I want to look at myself in the mirror and I want to feel happy and confident. I want my kids to see that as well. I don't want to be getting on a body image obsession, but I want them to feel that it's perfectly normal to be healthy. And I want to feel confident in my own skin, and I want to feel that I can go in and I can buy any clothes from the shops and I can feel good about doing that. I don't have to hide myself away. That's getting closer. That's the vision of what you want. The target is just a representation of that, but the vision is the much higher purpose, the reason why you want to do this in the first place. And actually, you probably drill down even deeper than all that as well. Okay, let's go back into this. How are we doing for time? Doing okay so far. Let me just share my screen again. So there we go. I want to let's go back to SMART goals then, and because I want to talk about this exception here. And I also want to talk about, so we talk about the why. Let's talk about the exception, because I say SMART goals are pointless. They're not pointless. There is an exception. You kind of want to ignore the whole never set SMART goals thing for this one time. And it's when you're setting process goals. And when you're setting a process goal, it can be completely without a why, because this sits down below that. The process goal is what you're going to do to achieve your why goal, to achieve what it is you actually want to achieve. So, for example, if you decide that you want to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, then part of the process of that might be eating 5 portions of fruit and veg each day. It might be exercising 3 times a week. It might be getting to bed by 10:30 4 nights a week. It might be meditating to release your stress every morning for 5 minutes. It could be a number of all sorts of other things. And these are process goals, and you can easily set up SMART goals around process goals. Just like some of the examples I just gave you there are perfect examples of that. You always want to have a specific, something that's measurable. You either, it's normally binary. Down here you can see it's measurable, it's binary. You either did it or you didn't do it. It's achievable. If you think you can do it, if you're going to commit to it, then bang, you can go ahead and do it. And time frame, like instantly, that's going to happen right now. Or by the end of the week, I'm going to have exercised 3 times. Did you do it or didn't you do it? You can measure it. You can come up against that. Now, the reason why process goals are so important is you have complete control. Now, if you're training for a 4-hour marathon or to lose that magical 10 pounds in 6 weeks, then you don't have complete control about whether or not that happens. You don't have complete control. The reason being, all sorts of other factors could kick in that you might find that you pick up a cold and you can't exercise for a week out of the 6 weeks, or you get injured on the way to the marathon and you can't train. But you're always going to be in control of the process goals. Obviously, in those 2 scenarios, then you can't train, and so that's going to affect your results. It's going to affect your processes as well. But you're in control. The only reason why you wouldn't do the things you set out to do would be because you decided not to. Something else more important came up and got in your way and shifted your priorities back down. But this is where you've got to be thinking about commitment. You've got to be realistic when you set it up. We're going to go through the 3 things you need to do before you even start by putting goal setting and goal achieving into practice. You've got to make sure that your processes are there. You know what it is you're going to be doing. It's absolutely critical. So the process goals are really, really key. It's a bit like if you got up in the morning and said to yourself, right, today I'm going to go and lose 2 pounds, or I'm going to go and get fitter today. You don't go and do those things. They're the results of what you're going to do. You get up and you take specific actions to enable those goals to happen, those things to happen. So you get up in the morning, you say, right, what am I going to do today to take myself a little bit closer towards achieving my goal? What I'm going to do today is I'm going to get up and I'm going to do some de-stress. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do some breathing techniques. I'm going to drink a liter of water before I go, get in the shower or go to work. I'm going to take my supplements. I'm going to exercise at the gym before I go to work. These are the things that you're actually going to do. They're the things that will make the difference and help you achieve the goal. So they're the times where you need to set those SMART goals, because you need to know exactly what you're going to do. But that's a good juncture for me to go back in now and talk about these 3 things that you have to do. Otherwise, none of this means anything. Unless you can do these 3 things, none of it means diddly squat. The 3 steps: you have to know what you're going to do, you have to know when you're going to do it, and you have to take action. It's all very well and good watching webinars and sitting down and making lists and writing goals out and thinking about this stuff. Until you go ahead and actually do something, nothing changes. You've got to take action. Before you take action, though, don't just blindly plow into it. Have a little think, know what it is you're going to do. This is your process goals that we talked about down here. So you've got to set yourself up those process goals. Know what it is you're going to do. Know when you're going to do it. This is where I think a lot of people come unstuck. They miss out this step. They just think, right, I'll know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take action. Unless you know when it is you're going to do these things that you say you're going to do, then it ain't going to happen. It's just a simple case of scheduling and planning. You've got to know, if you've got a really busy day on Tuesday, then you're not going to get to the gym, or you're not going to get up for a run. Then when are you going to get that training session in? Plan it into your diary. Make it into an appointment that's unmovable. If you had a doctor's appointment, you probably wouldn't miss it if you had to send a couple of extra emails, because there'd be consequences. If you had to take the kids to school in the morning, then you wouldn't not take them because you wanted to have an extra half hour in bed. You would be up and you will be taking those kids to school. It's an appointment. It's something that's scheduled that you have to do. The same is true about all the things that we talked about that are going to be steps towards you achieving your big goal, whatever that is. So goal setting, this isn't just a goal setting webinar, this is about goal achieving as well. And in order to achieve something, you've got to do these 3 things. Know what it is you're going to do. I'm going to come back to that point as well, actually, when I go over to the 5-point plan. You do need to know what you're going to do. You need to know when you're going to do it, schedule it in, and you need to take action. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to expand on those three things again with the 5-point plan. But really think about having those things ingrained in your mind before you take on any kind of goal. How are you going to cover these 3 things? Because until you've done that, nothing is going to change. Okay, let's scroll down to here, to this little corner here. Psycho-cybernetics. Psycho-cybernetics. I'm just going to come out of this again and talk you through. This bit is a little bit more. It's a little bit more theoretical. Excuse me. It's a book by a guy called Maxwell Maltz. He wrote it, and I think he wrote it in the 60s. Very, very interesting book. Also very hard going. So I got the audio book in the end because I couldn't cope with the written word. But it's a really interesting book about how our brains work, especially with goal setting and achievements concerned. And I use the phrase goal setting machine. And actually, that's exactly what our brains are. Our brains have only one mode of operation, and that is to go after a target. The problem is most of us don't set enough of a target, enough of a powerful enough target, or we don't know how to adapt our trajectory. What that means, if you imagine a heat-seeking missile or a laser-guided missile even, a laser-guided missile is going over here, it's going from here. It's not going to just go in a straight line. What's going to happen is it's going to go that way, then it's going to course correct, it's going to go that way, then it's going to course correct, it's going to go that way, then it's going to go that way, and it's going to keep on course correcting till eventually, bosh, it gets to where it's going. But most of the time it's going wrong. It just knows how to course correct, so you need to be flexible. Again, I'm going to bring this in just to wrap things up at the end when we talk about the 5-point plan. So psycho-cybernetics talks about how you have this goal and your brain is going to just stay right. What do I need to do in order to achieve that? But then it goes one step further. It starts to explain how we don't know the difference between imagination and reality. Okay, we don't. There's no as far as our brains are concerned. We know it consciously, subconsciously. Our brains don't get. There is no difference between what you imagine and what is real life. Now we can use that to our advantage because we can do certain visualization techniques, and you can really go to town with this. And I've talked about visualization before. It's a really powerful strategy, something I use all of the time with me and clients. It's such a powerful thing to do. And once you've got your why, you know what it is you're really trying to achieve, you can see yourself in the future. You can do it now, maybe 6 weeks, 6 months, a year down the line, once you've achieved that goal. And you just bring up the image of what it's going to be like in your mind, whether it's a movie or just a picture in your mind, and you just really make it as vivid as you can. And you think about all the things that are going to be around you. What will you see? What will you see around you? What will people be doing? What will people be, when you look in the mirror, what will you see? What will you hear? What sounds will you hear? What will people be saying to you? What will you be saying to yourself? What words will you be using? How will you describe yourself? How would you feel when you get to that point? And you go through this process, you think about all those different modalities there. You think about what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel, and what you're saying to yourself. It ticks a lot of boxes there, because then what's happening is your brain's tripping into that and it's thinking, right, okay, this is real life. I'm resetting. It's like you've got a thermostat in your brain. It's set down here right now. You want it to be up here. So you're just shifting that thermostat up here. And all of a sudden, just like a thermostat, when it gets too hot or too cold, it's going to shift things back down again. You shift that set point up here, and then everything is going to be geared towards moving you across. So your body's going to be predisposed to taking action to get you closer to your goal. And that's where the power of setting this why and setting it and visualization comes in. You really do start to imagine what it's going to be like when you're there, and then it may be actually as soon as you do that exercise, you go through that process, you realize, hell, this isn't what I want after all. The idea of what I have to give up in order to get to what I think I want to be. That's too much of the consequences are too big. And anytime you do something, anytime you change something, there's going to be stuff that has to drop off the end. Not because you don't have the time to do it anymore, but more often than not, it's going to be because You're just simply not the same person that you were before. You may not be hanging around with the same friends. You may be eating different foods. You may be going to different restaurants. You may be exercising in a different way. All these things mean that things are going to change. And so if you're not prepared to give those things up, then it just means that that goal isn't the one for you. And that's not a bad thing. It just means you discovered it, and you can move on. You can start thinking about other goals that are going to be the right ones for you. But when you have that, then let me go back to here again. When you do know what it is you want to achieve, and you can imagine your goal, then you can be this laser-guided missile that you just, there's your target, change direction constantly. You've got this flexibility in there as well. That's what you need in order to really be successful here. Making a plan, a meticulously detailed plan from today, 6 months down the line, you ain't going to stick to that. Things are going to change. You'll be a different person 6 months down the line. You'll be a different person 6 days down the line. If you keep doing what you say you're going to do, then everything is going to change for you. So you need to be aware of that, and that's where you need to have that flexibility. You need to try things and don't be afraid of failure. If things don't look like they're working, then you change direction, back you go the other way again. But all the time, you're imagining what it's going to be like when you get there, and that's the psycho-cybernetics side of things. Okay, I am going to go now to my little 5-point plan, which I have over here. Here we go. So let's just shift that back over. I love mind maps. They're a really, really great way of thinking. So anyway, here we go. First thing you need to do, you got to dig deep and discover your why. Because like I said, without that, whatever framework you use to set your goals, whether it's SMART goals or you just have this big vision, you've got to know why it is you want to achieve that. And once you've got that, you can then start moving on. The next step from that, as simple as that, I mean, it sounds really simple. It is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. You've still got to put some effort into doing it. You've got to sit down. You've got to really think about this stuff. You don't have to be, lying in your bed meditating to do this stuff. You can just have it ticking away in the back of your mind and put it over to the subconscious to work out. And then all of a sudden, you'll wake up in the morning and it'll be ping. There it is, there's the answer. You'll be driving along in the car and a flash of inspiration will come to you. That's not a coincidence. That's your subconscious has been figuring stuff out, and then all of a sudden it serves it up to you on a platter. Be sensible enough, be smart enough to take that information, take that nugget of inspiration and run with it. The next thing you need to do is to make a simple plan. Remember what I said earlier on? You need 3 things. You need to, first of all, know what you're going to do, know when you're going to do it, and then you've got to take action. You've got to have a plan. It doesn't want to be a very, very detailed plan right to the end, because otherwise, if you blink yourself out to being flexible, then your laser-guided missile is going to go off on the wrong trajectory. It's going to go okay direction to begin with, but that 1 degree of wrongness at the start is going to turn into missing your goal by a mile. By the time it gets there. So be prepared to make the changes. So don't waste time making really, really simple, detailed plans. Now, when I say make a plan, it depends on what your goal is, but your first step may be to gather information. It may be to go out there and surf the net and find more information. Now, it might be that you know all the information, but you need to surround yourself with more positive people. But what is the next thing that you need to do in order to achieve that goal? What can you do tomorrow? What can you do now? As soon as this webinar is finished, what can you do right now that's going to take you a tiny, teeny step closer to achieving your goal? There must be something. If you don't know what that something is, then you have no way of ever achieving your goal. You need to know what the next step is. You don't need to know what the one after that is. Good to have an idea. You just need to know what the next step is. Next up, create a detailed vision of what success will look, sound, and feel like, and what you will tell yourself when you get there. Create this vision and then commit to 5 minutes a day where you sit down somewhere quiet. I wouldn't advise doing this when you're driving along, because you do kind of get a bit spaced out. But think about sitting down somewhere quiet, maybe get up 5 minutes early, go to bed 5 minutes early, so you have that time where you can sit down and you can serve up in your mind's eye this vision of what success looks like. Think about all the colors. Think about what you look like. Think about what others around you look like. Are they smiling? Are they happy? Are they there? and who is around you. Think about what the sounds are going to be, what people are saying to you. Think about how you feel inside when you've reached your goal and what you're telling yourself. What words will you be using to tell you to talk to yourself when you've reached your goal? Serve out that detailed vision and repeat it over time and time again, multiple times a day if you can, but at least once a day. It's a very, very powerful technique. Number 4 on the 5-point plan, you need to gather your resources together. So by this, I mean, what is it you need to do? What's the stuff that you need in order to achieve your goals, in order to move forward to achieve your goals? And like I said earlier, that could be just getting more information. If it's about weight loss, there might be a few things that you don't know yet. Chances are you know enough to start taking those first steps, which is to put down that cake and pick up an apple. That's a little bit simplistic, but you know that there are some things that are going to be working against you, your goals, and there are certain things that are going to be helping you, and you just got to do more of the good stuff. So what do you need? Is it more information? Is it more support? Who have you got around you right now? What people are around you? Have you got cheerleaders around you, or have you got energy vampires who are going to suck the very life out of you when you tell them that you want to achieve something? Oh, not another one of your fatty goals. You're not on another stupid diet, are you? Oh, come on, just come out and have a couple of drinks or have another glass of wine. They're the people who mean well, but my God, you got to get rid of them. If they're in your life and you can't get rid of them, you need to minimize how much time you spend with them. If that's not practical, you just sit down and talk to them about how important this is. If you know that ain't going to work, then you just have to suck it up, but create a barrier so their negativity doesn't get through to you. Having the right people around you is absolutely crucial if you're going to be successful here. Actively go out and find people who are going to support you. And that doesn't mean they have to be your coach or anything, but you need to find people who are already thinking the way you want to be thinking, are doing the things you want to be doing, who has achieved the kind of success that you want to achieve. How have they done it? Just spend time with them, whether they're real people or whether they're online, people on Facebook, people you follow on Twitter, blogs you read, podcasts you download, webinars like this that you go on. I recognize I'm a reasonably positive guy, and I know that I have an effect on people. So have a look at some of the stuff that I put out. Other people who aren't just sickeningly positive for no reason. You've got to have a reason. You've got to believe what they're saying as well. So hopefully you believe some of the stuff I put out, but hopefully you believe all the stuff I put out and take action on some of it as well. But you've got to surround yourself with those positive people. That is absolutely critical. And finally, create the habit of taking meaningful and consistent action. You want to have good teeth. You don't just brush your teeth once. You do it twice a day, morning and night, and you do it every day. You want to create success. There are things you have to do, and it has to become a habit. It has to be meaningful. It has to be significant enough for it to make a difference, and you have to be consistent with it. Commitment is what is left long after the mood you were in when you made the decision to do something has left you. That's a bit of a paraphrase, but you get the point. You've got to commit to something here, and you've got to just do what it takes. It's about habits. There's no extra energy involved here. It's just using the energy you're already dishing up and using elsewhere and repurposing it, putting it on something that's going to really help you and take you to where you want to be. You've got to create that habit. So just to recap on all that, dig deep, discover your why. Make a simple plan of what you're going to do. Roughly, what does it look like? But more importantly, what is the next thing that you are going to do? Go ahead and do it. Create a detailed vision of what success will look, sound, and feel like, and what you will be telling yourself when you get there. Create or gather your resources together so you have everything in place, at least 90% of everything you think you're going to need in place before you get cracking, and then off you go. Take action. This is a bit of an expanded version really of those 3 things you need to do. You can see them coming in there. You need to know what you're going to do. You need to know when you're going to do it. That comes into your resources there. Then you have to just go out there and take action. Absolutely essential. Nothing happens until you take action. Whew. Bit of a breather there for a quick sip of water. Been talking all day, and my voice has just started to go. Well, I'm actually not that good in the evenings. I'm much better in the mornings. much more of a morning person, much more energetic first thing in the morning. I was doing a boot camp at 6:30 this morning. It's now it's gone 9:10, so my energy levels are starting to dip a little bit, but hopefully I've nailed it. There's 38 minutes so far on the clock, so not quite sure how I managed to do that in time, but it's to come together. But I just want to thank you for listening, but I don't want you just to have been through this 40-minute presentation and then just go away and think, yeah, well, that was interesting. Hopefully at least think that. I want you to go away and do something. I want you to go away and I want you to do those 5 things. If you're already doing those 5 things, fantastic. If you only set SMART goals right now, then change things. Think about your why. Get everything else in place and go ahead and take action. Nothing happens until you take action. Okay, I'm going to sign off there. I want to say thank you once more again for listening. If you have questions and you want me to answer them at a later date, either in tomorrow's Cliff Notes email, which you'll get if you're registered for the live webinar. If you're not, then there's a link down at the bottom there where you can do that. If you have questions you want me to answer, then stick them in, because I will get to them, and I will answer them. And hopefully, if there's some good ones, I might even chuck up a couple of video Q&A answers as well. So thanks again for listening this evening. Much appreciated, and very best of luck to you in achieving whatever goals you've set yourself. Bye for now.